crashed the account. How did that make you feel, bro? How did you bounce back? I'm just playing, bro.
Welcome to today's mathematics.
You supposed to.
Today's mathematics. Welcome to Price Discovery,
Yep.
followed by your weekly roundup. As the rest of you can tell, we went on a hiatus, but now we're back, stronger than ever. Combining both what we learned from the market and also what to look out for these next 68 to 48 hours, however long it is between market close on Friday and market open on Monday.
How many hours did you say, bro?
I said 68 to 48.
This mathematics.
Right.
This man can't calculate 24 times 5. But he trying to teach y'all mathematics.
Hey, we both learning here.
Just make it make sense, bro.
Hey, we both learning here. Watch this. Matter of fact, let's look at this Bitcoin chart here. All I see here is higher highs. Let's pull up the weekly.
Higher highs, higher lows. Yeah, Bitcoin took a
dookie.
Yeah,
it came back to the 20, and that's the important part, right? We need to figure out what these levels are because that's what's going to tell us what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see here on the weekly, boom, we had an all-time high at 125. Came back to 110, 109 for this bounce off the 20. Now what we do see as well is the 50 crossing over the 100 down here. Let's look at SPY. We seen SPY did a mean dump at the end of the week. You can see that reflected on the weekly chart. Let's get just one time frame down to that daily. Let's just check what happened there. As we can see, for the most part, we had that look above, a couple of red days, can't stay above this line, and then we had that push. Looking deeper here, we can see the some of these support zones that I drew. Right, this used to be a level of resistance. Look above and fail for the bolt back up to this zone. Then it met this resistance here. Now, I would have thought that this would have held this resistance up here as previous resistance. I thought it would have held that support, and that's why I drew this zone here, but it crashed through that, and the next support zone is right here, this 642 to 648. So that's probably where it's going to open in on come Monday. Worst case, but the truth is, and this is what I want to point out, is technically we're still in a bull market all the way until pretty much if we can hold this 642. If we hold this 642 and we can make a higher low, cool. Even if we hold this 604 down here, 601 to 604 down here, if we hold this 601, we're still in the bull market. If we get back below here, it's ugly. Because we can see again, just like how previous resistance is supposed to become support, and if it's failed, it's going to tank. If previous resistance doesn't hold that support, it'll tank down to where it went for April. But I don't see that happening. So I do think that we'll hold that 640 zone.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what actually caused this catalyst back in February. If I remember correctly,
I think it was looming tariffs, and then the tariffs.
Yeah, exactly. So we might get a similar situation here, and let's really break this down as to what happened on Friday to make this big bearish engulfing candle on the weekly, right? So if you're not tapped into the, your political landscape, I would advise you to, because, hey, it's getting crazy out here.
Imagine you were in calls.
It's getting crazy.
Imagine you was just looking at the technical analysis.
Me.
But I mean, we were in calls for the long term too. But
yeah,
I would say right now Go ahead, bro. I'm gonna let you talk.
Yeah, bro. I mean, first just break down exactly what caused the move. Because if you look at our structure, just like Billy just broke down, we were looking on the up and up. You know what I'm saying? We were in uncharted territories. We were looking to push, on that daily. I'm sorry, this is the weekly candle.
Mm-hmm. But the daily candle looks pretty similar because it all happened Friday.
I just want to show like we were already above this, resistance turned support, like you said, and we were staying above it for days, for actually weeks, or a week and some days. So we were looking good, right? Looking like, oh, we still might push, touch 700, which would be crazy. But then what happened on Friday? Boom, we got this major bearish engulfing, which still, like Billy said, we haven't broken structure, bull structure. But what we did do is, this definitely took, hurt some people's accounts. And like we said, because we were above and looking to push, there were a lot of bulls who were upset, who took some major losses on this Friday. But overall, let's just talk about what happened on Friday, right? So
Also, I would say too, like again, every time you hit all-time highs, you're gonna get that liquidation because people are taking profit. So that plus the culmination of the tariff situation, plus the culmination of like this is the first, what was this, like the first full week of October. You feel me? So you got to understand the timing as well. People, Q4 is starting off, so people are making allocations. They're moving their money around. I think consumer staples uh was the only sector that wasn't down, leaving Friday's close.
it's a lot of red.
It's a lot of red.
That's a bloody market
Let
right
me
there.
show
You want to
this
talk about blood? I
chart
see
to y'all.
tons of blood.
Yeah.
But that's
So,
just like we said. We had a bloody day on Friday, which was crazy.
and you know what? I've actually heard that Fridays are never the lowest days. So we can expect us to at least open lower on Monday, or maybe even go lower Monday and open even lower on Tuesday. I think that we'll probably find the bottom of this sell off by Tuesday. And if we don't, then we'll probably find the strong consolidation by the end of the week.
Yeah, I'm thinking this week could definitely be bearish week. Just following the news. Plus Trump. Oh yeah, first we keep skipping the point.
We keep skipping
Let's
the point. Let's tell
let's
these
talk
people what they
about
really
what
want to
happened
hear.
on Friday.
Wait. We got to start really from last week.
What happened last week?
Government shutdown.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
so the thing is that with the government shutdown, that's not going to really show on the charts. That's not going to show on the paperwork because we got CPI coming up next week too. But
mm-hmm.
that the layoffs, no, excuse me. Let's get this straight. The shutdowns aren't going to show on the labor statistics until or the effects of it aren't going to show until at least, the next, pay cycle. Government pays out on the 1st and the 15th. Like if you have anybody or if you know anybody who gets paid on VA, you know that, right? So cool. And understand these people not getting paid, and in addition to that, they're also getting laid off, right? So people are federal workers are being laid off, which means they won't be coming back to work whenever the government does come back up.
Mm-hmm.
Super crucial to understand that that's going to be more people filing for unemployment, the more job number that's going to affect the jobs numbers, which is what essentially people were the most worried about when they just dropped in September. So yeah, I mean, it's not really looking good in terms of all of that stuff, and we're probably just getting that market breath here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still Max 7, it's still AI.
I mean, let's talk about yeah. I mean, let's actually do a quick Q&A on that. Tell me why, or explain the effects of the government shutdown on the market. Meaning,
Yeah.
how does the government shutdown is basically they're at a standstill, right? Democrats and Republicans can't agree, and they're really trying to block the blink files, but overall it's like they can't agree, so pretty much nobody's working in Congress.
Right.
So that's the first part. The second part is yeah, they've been decommissioning, not or temporarily decommissioning these government funded agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and
With Doge.
like yeah, or that too, but just even like with the shutdown and with the layoffs, like I don't know if you saw like TSA,
Mm-hmm.
like TSA workers weren't working, so the airport was like backed up. But then they fixed that, right? They were like, okay, so they know like which, there's
But
some that's
also,
not
like, they're
essential, and
not
there's
gonna
some
get
they're like
paid though.
TSA people, right?
Yeah,
Because they work for the government, right?
right. They're
That's
not
why they
gonna
didn't
get
want to come
paid.
to work. They were like, why would I come to work when we're not getting paid? So just explain your opinion on how government shutdowns and laying off some of these federal workers, that's not because it extends past Congress. So
Right.
explain how that affects Nvidia or Microsoft or Amazon, or just the market in general. Like your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, even with the market in general, the truth is like we have to remember the market is made up out of people, right? So if we've got, because the government employs like over hundred thousands of employees across the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're getting stifled with, you know what I'm saying, they're not getting paid because the government shut down, the IRS is shut down. People aren't getting loans approved for their homes. So that's again money getting stagnant. If people need that money to be circulating, whether it's in their pockets or to make a decision, and they don't have that ability, where are they going to get it from? They're going to get it from their savings. That's similar to the S&Ps, right? So typically people's savings are in the market. So we'll see flushes of that coming in again on the 1st and the 15th. People are going to be taking their actual money, what they have left, out of the market to go and cover whatever needs they have. Or even worse, they're going to go and get a credit card or get some loans, which means that's what more money that needs to get paid back. But how are they going to pay it back with no job? Great question. Then the government has to come and bail them out, right? Happens. But yeah, I'm just gonna read the statistic here, right? Uh I don't really have a statistic, but this would have been a good time for me to read a statistic. Well, let me tell you this: around 74% of people in rural areas own their homes in 2023. That's down from 81% a decade earlier. So imagine that. It's getting harder and harder to buy a home. It's getting harder and harder to keep money in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So how does that affect stocks though?
Well, if people pulling their money out of the stocks, then
You
the
saying
stock price is going to keep going down.
so? You saying people are basically
Yeah,
selling their stuff for money?
100%.
Understood. Understood.
Now,
I like that sentiment.
I feel like was I blabbering, bro?
What you mean?
Did I not answer the question clearly?
No, no, no. I mean, you kind of talking more about like the labor market. Like, yeah, people are gonna losing their jobs, which means they're not gonna have money to do X, Y, and Z. I was looking more through the lens of the stock market, right? Like,
Hmm.
how does government shutdown directly affect this
Like
big
the
drop here,
prices.
right, of stocks? But like you said, people are going to be pulling from the stocks. I agree with that. I think the more the not to say or to piggyback on your answer, I think it also just brings sentiment, right? The sentiment, because like you said, the market's made out of people, right? The sentiment of people is, when you hear government shutdown, you're like, huh? Because we put our faith in our government, right? The government is who we pay our taxes to. Every transaction we make, whether we go to the grocery store, the gas station, or getting our paycheck, we're
Yeah,
paying the government. So to hear government shutdown, everybody's going to get scared, right? So then, like you said, people are going to probably try to hoard. Let me secure my dollars. Let me take
yeah,
let me take it out of these riskier places. In
100%.
the stock market, even though it's pretty consistent, if you look at SPY, over the course, that's still considered there's an amount of risk with that, right? So people would rather have their money handy, accessible, what do you call it, liquid, right? They'd
Hmm.
rather be more liquid.
And then
So,
also too, when we're thinking about like if the government is shut down, like that means the borders are also non-operational. You know what I'm saying? If things need to get clear, special clearance, this, that, the third, like that's getting sent up to nowhere. You know
hmm
what I'm saying? So that's disrupting supply chains. That's
hmm
that's going to your home. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? To your local restaurant, to your local grocery store. They're not gonna get their food because damn shit couldn't get cleared.
hmm
So
that's
that's
real.
that's when it get tough because not only are lower income people not getting their government assistance to buy the necessities that they need, but people are going to start caring when like shipments can't come through,
hmm
or you know what I'm saying, we're dealing with different types of psychological warfare of scarcity. So yeah, I
hmm
just put this up on the screen just to show us the fear and greed index. We're definitely in the fear zone. I don't really see us bouncing back until we kiss that extreme fear zone, and that's nothing but a buying opportunity for us. So if you do work at a private institution, some sort of private corporation, you probably still gonna be getting paid. So put that money in the market.
hmm
You know,
Yeah, I just wanted to, because we still haven't actually talked about exactly what happened on Friday, right? We talked about government shutdowns. I think that was like 2 weeks ago. Uh, but also now just looking at exactly what happened Friday, which caused that big dump.
But what did happen?
This is exactly what happened.
The tariffs. Yeah, 100% tariffs.
Right. So let's just break this down. Basically, President Donald Trump is suggesting that China is now essentially trying to start monopolies on certain rare earths or,
The minerals.
yeah, stuff that pretty much goes into all our raw materials that go into products, right?
All right.
So that could be pretty much everything, silver, gold, even just regular stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
The carbon that they got to
carb,
use
yeah.
to make the silicone chips.
Right. He didn't specify what those were, and honestly, I still need to do my due diligence on exactly if he's actually just claiming these things or it's true. But either way, what happened on Friday was that because he felt like China was, starting to uh, basically trying to essentially trying
You can
to.
see her trying to intimidate bro here.
And it's funny because he was saying he was actually supposed to have a meeting with him, but now he doesn't want to meet with him.
Now they don't want to meet. You imagine
Right.
that?
But overall, he's saying like, yeah, he feels China is basically trying to start a monopoly on these rare earth materials. They're basically trying to, when you have a monopoly, obviously you can control prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically suggesting that China is becoming a threat globally as far as controlling trade, pretty much, and controlling
Wow.
global prices of pretty much everything we use on a day to day basis. So from that perspective, he said because China is creating their monopoly and forcing or controlling prices in other countries. He's saying other countries in NATO are also feeling like this as well. Like I said, I need to do my research on that, but pretty much because of that, he's saying, oh, okay, America is now going to take a position of we're going to, do the same thing essentially, or whatever raw materials and, precious metals that America
Resources.
have, yeah, our resources that America have, we're essentially going to also do the same thing, which is, monopolize them, control prices, blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
what that did was, and then he also suggested tariffs, which after market, right? Market closed at 4. I think he
Yeah.
at like 4:30 he said, we're going to do 100% tariff on November 1st,
And so
which could start actually sooner. So that's why we
all
had,
that means is that the 100% tariff still isn't even priced in all the way.
and then I mean it
And
should,
we already had this drop. So after this drop, after this drop is when he announces 100% tariffs.
right,
Nigga, we're going to the floor. So
right. I mean, I wouldn't scare people like that. I don't think we're going to the floor.
it's
Because
over.
we had the same situation happen, and like we said in February,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
over till it's
which
not, of
which
course.
which is what I was saying. Like
Yeah,
if
of
we look at
course.
SPY again, right, just to stay here, right, we had the same situation here. We had a major drop for a couple weeks. One, two, wasn't to this degree. This is we had a major. This is how many?
That was one day, bro.
Yeah, I would have to check.
And the market hasn't priced in the this week because technically that should happen on the weekend. So the market hasn't even priced in this weekend's news, and we still have tomorrow before some bullshit could, God forbid, drop. So it's a lot of opportunity for shorts. It's a lot of opportunity for buying into what you already have stock in for sure. You know what I'm saying? Dollar cost averaging down, um, especially in your AI plays. Speaking of your AI plays, let's look at some of in terms of plays that we're about to tell you for this week. Everything's crashing right now, clearly. So you need to do your own due diligence before we come back for next weekend for our next price discovery. But let's look at some of these core companies in terms of the AI bubble. That's what they like to call it. We're on the weekly here, and all I see here is a inverted pin bar, which means price came up here to 194 and then it dropped back down. This is bearish, or not super bearish, but I do think that this needs some breath back to 160 or 170, excuse me, at least, if not 145 down here. But this is the weekly. Overall, on the daily, let's take a look. On the daily, still seeing this having to come and support this 170. Yeah, I still have the same sentiment on the daily. But what do you see here?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I like to look at that weekly to see exactly because the higher time frames always decide the lower one. So
Right.
weekly on that with this wick at the top, you can see this was a bull flag. Boom, we pushed up, so I can see I would count this as a higher high, almost touched this 200 level. So I can see us pulling back to. I mean, the likely trade is watch for a double bottom here at about 165. You know, if you get a double bottom, I think we're fine. This would be a great buying opportunity at 165. But overall, as far as trading, yeah, I'll probably just look for puts. Like we said, we're expecting this week to be bearish. But it could change. And that's the thing about the market now with Trump in office. He's been,
Volatile.
yeah,
But you can make money in volatility.
you can if you know what's going to happen before. You got to be, and that's what I'm saying. You got to be really tapped in.
Yeah.
Got to be really tapped in, chat. So make sure you're. I don't know what news articles or news platform you use, but just make sure
Yeah, use CNBC, Yahoo Finance. All of those are gonna be
X is a
pretty.
great resource.
Yeah,
I'll
X is
say that.
definitely
Use
a great
X.
resource.
That's where I get my news from. You got to know how to cipher through there, but at least I like X because it's very up to date, right? So as soon as stuff's coming out, people are posting on X and
Right.
letting you know what happened.
And you know
That's
who
how I
else
knew about the
posts on
Trump stuff.
X?
Donald Trump.
Trump.
Exactly. That's what he
Might
did.
as well get it from the horse's mouth.
That's literally what it came from. He didn't make a press release. He tweeted. He tweeted and then talked about it officially later, which is.
Exactly.
But by that time, the market had already started tanking. So from one tweet, we got almost a 10% drop,
Yeah,
which
let's
is
look at the VIX now.
yeah. But see, you can see the bull flag on there.
This is on the H1. Let's look at this shit on the weekly. Yeah, so for the most part, the VIX really strong push up last week. I don't know if we'll get a huge candle up to the 40, which is what happened back in April and Marchish. But who knows, right? We could get just a little fake pump push like we did in October 2023 or in April of 24. But I mean, if you do the math, October, April, October, April. I mean, what do you see here?
I mean, first of all, what is VIX? Because VIX is something that we use, but the people might not know. VIX is basically a volatility index, right? So we basically just measuring how volatile the market is. Yeah, I mean, he pulled it up here. So, yeah, and it covers the next 30 days, often called the fear index or the fear gauge. So it's very similar to the fear and greed index, which yeah, it's very similar to this. Just another way to look at it, but graphically. But overall, basically what we're seeing is that we got a big volatility push, right, to the upside last week. Um, that just means we had a lot of volatility, like I said, because of the announcement that happened. So nothing to look at too crazy here. Um, yeah, I mean, you got a second play you wanna break down? Then I'll get into my two plays for the week.
Yeah, let's show the people QUBT.
Everybody want to talk quantum at a time like this?
Yeah, man, because you got to be able to continue looking in the future. So this is QET on the daily. Let's go back to the monthly because we got to understand what's actually going on here, right? So of course, got to understand when did they start, right? So they dropped in 2008, right? And they peaked at around 473 or 79 ish, and they've been essentially trading within this channel of basically 0 and 40, right? Right now, we're on an uptrend. If anything, month to month, we're seeing even though we got these wicks up here, but this is technically a cup and handle formation. So let's look that up. Cup and handle real quick.
The cup, a good old cup in the handle.
Cup and handle.
Good old cup in the handle.
And so all that means is that technically we could have, a push up. We have possibilities for a push up 100%. But yeah, this is something that I'm interested in possibly just adding shares to, just because the shares are so cheap. If I can get it to 100 shares here, then I could
Do you like them as a company, or you just look at the chart?
yeah, this is strictly just like QUBT is really the only quantum stock that I know. So I think they're like, if there was an Apple of quantum,
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be like the front runner. But again, I'm looking for those cheap stocks for different types of diversity in my portfolio, in terms of, oh, I can do like cash secure puts here. I know QUBT is probably not going to be one that's going to pop off super soon, but in terms of, okay, cool, how can I continue to make money consistently? Like, y'all do the math. If this is under 20 right now, what's 20 times 100? 20 times 100.
Toothcake.
2,000. So imagine if I can put $2,000 in the QUBT, and now I can do cash secure puts that are going to pay me on a weekly basis, $100 every week. So that's $400 a month that I can make off this 200 that I was already planning on having anyways. So just kind of exposing y'all to different kind of methods and situations that we got opportunities to here. But for the most part, week over week, you know, we're holding this 13 zone. That's a buying opportunity. Back to at least 25. Stop talking. You know what I'm saying? If we look at the daily, we got room. We got nothing but room. So it just touched 25. Look above and fail. All it has to do is hold this 14. And that's not too much of a gap here for me to be, necessarily overwhelmed with any pullbacks.
Yeah, quantum is an interesting area or sector. Quantum computing, if you don't know what that is basically the next type of basically it's what's going to power like the next type of intelligence, right? AI, or
Exactly.
even farther than that, right? Like how can we solve problems that currently with our current technology that we use today might take 10 minutes. We're looking at ways to how can we solve these problems in a minute, or a second or 10 seconds,
Nah,
right?
the scale is basically like things that would take a basic linear computer 100,000 years would take a quantum computer like an hour
Mm-hmm.
or even less than that.
Yeah,
And
so it's
so yeah, so this is like super intense when it comes to like security, right? Because if people have like encryptions and shit like that, or excuse me, but if people have like things like encryptions or like defense, if you can break through those defenses using quantum computing, um, then we're gonna need quantum defensive as well, right? So it get deep, it get deep when it comes to this. But basically, if uh, if the AI is the internet, quantum is AI. You know what I mean? They're
mm,
gonna they built the internet. Now they're using the AI on top of the internet, and now they're gonna use the quantum on top of the AI.
yeah, and that's like I think quantum it has a good amount of time left before, like it's very early. That's all I'm saying. Like we saw even QVT only existed, and we're just talking about one quantum company, right? But there's other companies in quantum that have been doing it probably longer. But overall, this is a very new thing. I want to say it's probably you know very as far as like what actual use cases and actually being able, like we have to have the technology to even power
Right.
right quantum stuff. So I think we're a good decade away from actually finding use cases for it. But that doesn't mean that you can't be an early being involved in
Yeah.
this market. So
Speaking of power, right? SMR definitely one on my radar as well. Nuclear power for data centers. Um, Uptrend, right? We're on the monthly. I bought them closer to 38. So we're getting back to that buy zone. For me per se, when you look at the weekly, look above and fail. Still respecting some of these Fibonacci zones. So for the most part, it is an uptrend for me. And we look at the
yeah,
daily
that uptrend kind of broke right there
right
with
here.
this one. Yeah, if you want to call that a double bottom, I wouldn't, because it kind of went. The double bottom would have been at like 36. It came all the way down to 32.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a Head and Shoulders, really.
I mean, it would be an inverted Head and Shoulders, so it's to the upside.
Left, head, right.
But I see what you're saying
The
because it
neckline,
definitely did break this here.
yeah, the neckline would be basically if it breaks 36 type, you would look for puts. But
Oh, you're saying shoulder, head, shoulder.
yeah,
Yeah, I can see
left
that.
head, right, yeah.
I can see that.
So,
Definitely.
but no, I mean, I'm not saying don't be bullish on this. I'm just saying
Yeah, I'm still
on this
bullish
chart
because
here,
if anything, if it does what it did here, we'll get that U
similar
shape.
situation. Yeah, you
We'll
might
get that
get
U
that where
shape.
it breaks.
Might give you a buying opportunity at 20.
Yep. But yeah, let's talk about Blue Benji's top 2 picks for the week. So my first one is Amazon. I like Amazon. I think that Amazon's doing a lot of good stuff. They're finding ways to just stay profitable, new ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
They're ahead as far as like the tech they use. So that's why I like Amazon as a whole. I'm not going to talk too much about them, but like you saw the drones and stuff they're doing and um, cloud work they're doing. So I think what will happen is we got this daily close Friday below our support line at 217. So I do think we'll end up getting bearish continuation down to at least we might touch 210. I'm thinking we touch 210. Very probable, 212 to be safe. So I think, on Monday what I'll be looking for is opportunities to get in puts or just see, like you said, we might get a gap down on Monday. Hopefully not. Hopefully you give me an opportunity to get in. But I do think we'll get the bearish continuation down to 212. So I would take weekly contracts on this, honestly, because I'm not sure, especially with, like we said, it's very volatile. Trump is just doing stuff pretty much. So yeah, I mean, I would look for weekly not not too far out is what I'm saying, personally, just because I'm looking for quick moves on this because I expect the market to move very quickly
Yeah.
on
The
these
market
moves.
gonna bounce back eventually. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
like to like during these pull downs, I like to look for stocks that were already in the bearish continuation.
Mm-hmm. You just riding momentum at that point. Yep. Yeah. Very true. That's Amazon. That's my top pick. My next one is Nike. You see, I'm kind of picking um, stocks that I mean, I know Amazon does consumer stuff too. They do cloud stuff too, but overall, mainly consumer side. So Nike also a big
Damn,
one.
this play went crazy.
Yeah, bro. Nike. I mean, me and Billy were both in this. I was in $69 puts expired next Friday. I'm actually mad I closed because I think we'll still keep pushing down.
Yeah, 100%.
But man, I mean, just look at this. Oh, this is H4. Let's go to the daily. Sorry. On the daily, you can just see red, 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 red. Every day is almost you could have made money on puts.
Yeah.
You got this retracement. I don't know what the hell this was. Bounce off, yeah. Nike was doing some weird stuff on that day. This must have been earnings. Oh, yeah, this was earnings. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it was. Earnings caused that, but then you see we rejected straight off and just started dropping. So, um, yeah. I mean, I'm also just I caught this play already, but I'm also just watching it for
Yeah,
the
another
break.
opening.
Exactly. If we break this 65, just write it down. TP is open, to be honest. You could the next zone we have drawn here is around 63, 62, but hey, I would say until you get signs of reversal, and that's typically my strategy for entries and exits. Well, let's talk about exits. For exits, I'm only exiting a trade if I see a reversal candle on it has to be at least an H1.
Right.
Preferably H4
On a higher time
if you
frame.
can, yeah. If my play is, for longer out, I'm probably not gonna exit unless I get a candle H4 that, if I'm in calls, if I get a candle that looks like this, like if say I played this and I was in calls and then the next H4 or daily candle was this, yeah, I'm getting out. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a reversal candle, right? And look, boom, 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 boom. So, yeah, that's my 2 plays for this week, man. I think just be wary. That's my advice for this week. Be wary. I wouldn't trade too heavy. I wouldn't trade too heavy. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of moving factors. A lot of moving pieces that pretty much are not in our control. Good opportunity to buy though. Be looking for. We talked about some of the stocks: SMR, Nvidia, You know,
Mm-hmm.
some of those major ones, AI stocks. If you need some
PLTR,
AI,
Meta,
POTR,
the greatest.
Microsoft.
Yep.
You know, some of the major ones. I think you can. You know, some of the major stocks that maybe you couldn't afford or were skeptical to buy
Right.
because they were so high
They're giving you
and
opportunity
they were
right now.
rising. Yeah, some of those. You know, you could probably get in at a lower price point now. So that's my recommendation for the week, man. Just look for long term positions. Be wary. Don't trade too heavy. And yeah, man. Let's have
Yeah.
a good week.
That's gonna be it for today's mathematics. Tune in next week where we go over what happened in the market and what to look out for the next week. Be easy.
Yeah, have a good one. Yeah, mate.